The Great Prophecy is the prophecy that connects and intertwines the Percy Jackson series. It was brought up a lot of times in the first 5 books, and the series revolves around it. Today, I'll be explaining its history and its ultimate outcome. Before we start, I had to give a spoiler warning for the first 5 Percy Jackson books, and with that out of the way, let's get started. The prophecy was announced at the end of World War II, a war wherein Zeus and Poseidon's demigod children fought against Hades' demigod children. The three of them eventually stopped fighting because the Oracle of Delphi announced a prophecy that a demigod of the Big Three, aka Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, would either destroy or save Olympus. Learning about this, the brothers came together and realized that this was a risk they could not take. The three of them made a pact that they would not sire any more demigod children, meaning that they wouldn't have any more relationships with mortals. The problem was, Hades already had 2 demigod children named Nico and Bianca the Angelo. Zeus told Hades to send them to Camp Half-Blood, but Hades didn't do this because he was afraid that Nico and Bianca might be turned against him or killed. Hearing that Hades disobeyed him, Zeus got angry and struck the hotel where Nico, Bianca, their mother, Maria de Angelo, and Hades were staying at that night. Hades was only able to create a force field around Nico and Bianca, but the blast that Zeus made killed their mother. Hades shouted at the sky that Zeus would pay for what he did, and at that moment, the Oracle of Delphi, the being that announced the Great Prophecy, appeared to him. Hades threatened to kill her, but the Oracle said that the power of Delphi protected her. Furious at this, Hades cursed the Oracle that as long as he has to labor under the Great Prophecy, the spirit of the Oracle couldn't move on to another host. Meaning, even after the girl's death, she would be forced to say prophecies until her body withered away. Hades erased Nico and Bianca's memory and placed them in the Lotus Hotel, a place where nobody ages and nobody wants to leave. Because of this, Nico and Bianca stayed the same age, and that they will never turn 16, the age that one of the children of the Big Three would destroy or save Olympus. A couple of years later, Zeus himself broke the pact, and had a daughter named Thalia Grace. One day, when Thalia, a young Annabeth Chase, and Luke Castellan were reaching Camp Half-Blood, Hades sent the most terrifying creatures from the underworld to go after Thalia. He did this in revenge against Zeus because of the death of Maria de Angelo. Seeing that they were not going to make it, Thalia sacrificed herself and single-handedly took down the army of monsters Hades sent. Zeus saw this and took pity on his daughter, and he turned her into a pine tree so that her soul wouldn't go to Hades. With all of this in mind, we now have 3 demigods who could be the half-blood of the prophecy, and that they are somehow frozen in time, Nico and Bianca being stuck in the Lotus Casino, and Thalia stuck as a pine tree. Ultimately, Poseidon broke the pact as well, and had a son named Percy Jackson. When Percy made it to Camp Half-Blood and Poseidon claimed him as his son, everybody automatically thought that Percy was the half-blood of the prophecy because they didn't know about Nico, Bianca, and Thalia. But at the second book, Thalia's tree was healed too much by the golden fleece, and she turned back into a human. On top of that, Nico and Bianca were discharged from the Lotus Hotel in the third book, meaning all of them could age once more. But shortly after they were discharged, Bianca joined the Hunters of Artemis, and when someone does this, they become immortal and cannot age. Moreover, she could not turn 16, and this removes her from the demigods who might be the half-blood of the prophecy. Then, by the end of the Titan's curse, Thalia does the same thing, which limits it to either Nico the Angelo or Percy Jackson. It ends up going to Percy because he was going to turn 16 first. And now, here are the lines of the prophecy. A half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 16 against all odds. I'll see the world and end this sleep. The hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. A single choice shall end his days, Olympus to preserve or raise. And now let's break it down line by line. A half-blood of the eldest gods. This just means a half-blood from the Big Three, who are the most powerful gods. Next, shall reach 16 against all odds. This states that the half-blood would go through a lot of trials and near-death experiences, but still manage to reach the age of 16. This really applies to Percy because throughout these books, we've read about how often he fights against monsters and survives quests in dangerous places with Annabeth. Then, I'll see the world in endless sleep. This refers to the final battle in the last Olympian, where Morpheus, the god of sleep, made a spell that cast over Manhattan and made all the mortals sleep. Moving to the next line, the hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. For us to understand this line, we had to look into a bit of Luke Castellan's life, who was the hero in the prophecy. Luke was a demigod son of Hermes, and when he was a kid, he ran away from home. On the journey, he met Thalia Grace, and one day, he was given a celestial bronze knife by a demigod named Hal, and was told that it would always protect the person using it. One night, he met a 7-year-old Annabeth, who ran away from her house as well. Luke gave this knife to Annabeth the night they met, and the dagger was the cursed blade in the prophecy. The dagger was cursed because of Luke's betrayal to Camp Half-Blood. Going to the next line, a single choice shall end his days. While Luke tried to fight Kronos, he told Percy that Percy could not kill him, and that Luke himself was the only one who could do it. The single choice was for Percy to give the knife to Luke, and this was a very difficult decision, because Luke had betrayed Percy so many times in the past, and Kronos could just take over Luke and kill Percy then and there. But in the end, when Percy chose to give the knife to Luke, Luke still came through as the hero and stabbed himself on his Achilles heel, which killed not only him, but Kronos as well. Percy's choice of giving Luke the knife ended his days. Now, we go to the final line in the prophecy, Olympus to preserve or raise. This part is talking about whether Percy's choice would result in the destruction or the preservation of Olympus. If he didn't give Luke the knife, then Kronos might have taken over Luke and destroy Olympus. But luckily, Percy did the right thing, and Luke came out as the hero in the prophecy. The Great Prophecy was something all the gods feared and tried to avoid for years, but in the end, it all turned out okay because of Percy doing the right choice, and Luke's final act and sacrifice. How about you? Do you think Luke was the hero in the end? Let me know in the comments down below.